What is going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode, Conspiracy or Just a Coincidence. I am Jack Allen. As always, go follow me at Kojak Podcast. I've been getting some new Twitter followers, and I bought that blue check mark, and I swear it's like I've been getting more and more followers of like people. So that's like why I originally got it, was the algorithm that, like Elon said, that would put you at the top of the algorithm. So I figured, why not? So if you're a new person here, maybe you just started listening, please go follow me at Kojak Podcast on Twitter and Instagram and all that kind of stuff. And then if you, as always, if you want to support the show, I've got a wide variety, or Venmo, Patreon, and stuff like that. And last thing, I've been getting so many nice messages from a few people the past couple of days. Thank you so much. If you could leave a review on, wherever you listen to the podcast, I get like a message whenever, whatever review you leave. And I would be very thankful, very appreciative of that. So I think that's all the big stuff. I'm trying to think of like anything new or exciting to talk. Just to continue with our continued FTX thing, I think SBF, that Sam Bankman-Fried, was speaking either today or yesterday at the New York City, like with Eric Adams and all these people. Oh, and he claims he only has $100,000 left. I'm going to be really interested to see if anything comes. It looks like he's going to get away scot-free from stealing billions of dollars from hardworking people who put their life savings under this guy. I mean, how do you live with yourself? I guess you sleep on a pile of money. I guess that's how you live with yourself, but just disgusting. And yeah, so besides that, last week I had some current events that I really like, the Balenciaga thing. More and more stuff is coming out about that, but I don't want to get too involved in that discussion. Some people have researched it much more in-depthly than I have. So also go check out, I think Adam will be released from Deborah Gets Red Pill. I did a show with them last night, kind of on the Pirates and the Templar thing, but they added some new info that I haven't heard. So I really love that series. And I've been getting all these congrats. You're going to be on Tinfoil Hat. That'll be the topic that I'm probably going to do if I decide to change my mind last minute. But I think that'll be the topic. And so you can hear it again, or maybe you'll learn something new hearing it the second time through. I'm going to pick out the best stuff from the 3 episodes. So it'll be like I even created a new note sheet to do on that show. So I'm got it right there. I'm prepared. So I'm very excited. So that's December 21st. And I think that's it. So today's episode, we're kind of breaking away from, I've been on a big historical kick. What's up, Liv? Thank you. My wife is cleaning the bathroom behind me right here. And so if anybody can hear lots of cleaning or lots of moving around, please let me know. She says no one's going to be able to hear it. We'll see what happens. She said, can you go over the Balenciaga controversy? And I did that last week, my love. So you got to check out the episode, and you can hear all about it. But today's episode is about oil. And oil is it goes hand in hand with every single thing that our current overlords, with the environment, with climate. Oil has been demonized. And if you're like a conspiracy person, I am sure you have heard the whole, we've accepted these aren't fossil, these aren't from dinosaur bones, these aren't from ancient forests, these aren't from ancient plankton, the lies that the Rockefeller and Standard Oil created. And we're going to get a little bit into that, but it's just a fascinating, the things I learned in this book. Jerome Corsi wrote it, and I guess I don't even know who that is, but I guess maybe he's not I don't know. That's what I wanted to say. The last thing, I'm trying to turn over a new leaf here. And we eat our own so much in our little conspiracy, truth-seeking world. We call everyone a Fed and everyone they're co-opted and co-Intel Pro. And yeah, maybe some people are. I don't know. As I get more and more into this, I think we're all probably pretty much just people that love searching for the truth. We're all going to have different ideas and different answers. But just because somebody's successful, just because somebody has a huge audience, it doesn't mean they're the CIA. Maybe they're just very good at what they do. Like, I don't really listen to Nick Fuentes, and he is hated so much by so many people. But on the flip side, the guy is so talented. He can speak better than I ever could. He's articulate. He's Skeptic says Jerome Corsi, John Prisham's eye twitches. Exactly. But like, just like this, like Nick, I mean, again, he's an easily hateable character, but he's talented, dude. What's up, Big Dumb Podcast? How you guys doing, dude? Nice. Thanks for stopping in. But he's hated. He's a hated person. And I don't even know the guy, but he's got talent. So I think we got to like stop doing this. And I'm talking to myself as well, is just because somebody has 1,000 Patreons or whatever, maybe it's just because they've got a great show. And we got to stop thinking of this as that they're trying to lead you astray. And we all have so many just differing opinions. And so please stop, dude. Just be happy for these people. Big Dumb Pod, absolutely, dude. Anytime, just hit me up. I always see you on live. I try to stop in, but it's definitely been a while. So okay, that I just wanted to say that because I've just been getting aggravated, dude, by all this. Like, it's just like hate and jealousy, when really we're all on the same path here. Could somebody be CIA operative? Yeah, I guess. I'm like a lot of the people in the Q movement that led that, they were. But these people in ours that are hated, debanked, kicked off of every social platform, maybe there's they tell half truths and stuff, but you can still gain great information. A Big Dumb Pop. I'm not talking about anyone specific. I was kind of referencing Fuentes because he gets so much hate, and I don't love the guy. I think he's a young kid who says stupid things, but he's articulate. He's very intelligent. So we just need to stop doing this. It's insane, dude. It makes us look stupid. And so any good movement that we have, the CIA doesn't even need to ruin it at all. We're going to ruin it ourselves. And if I learned anything from Operation Phoenix in Vietnam, I used to come with this belief that the CIA was omnipotent, dude. They could do whatever. They were like the best of the best. They could trick me into believing the sky was red. And dude, they're a mess. They're humans. Just like, think. First of all, I don't know anybody that's ever been in the CIA. I had a kid in college. He went and joined the FBI, and they called like for references what type of person he is. He was a huge dork, dude. So the CIA is the same type of people. These guys are not the guys that are going to be able to come to a confident blah, 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 without less money. But they're such a mess. Everybody is trying. They're trying to make a name for themselves. They're trying to get famous, or not famous, powerful, rise through the ranks of the CIA. Do you think there's not competition and jealousy and just screwing up projects constantly? Yeah. And Operation Phoenix was that exact example. They wasted hundreds of millions of dollars building things that didn't work, plans that would fail. They had horrible communication skills. It's just something that I'm going to try. And really, I'm trying to turn off a new leaf, and I encourage you to, say you don't like somebody. All right, well, whatever. We don't need to agree, but we don't need to call them a Fed every single time. Feds are major nerds. Always. Exactly, dude. Exactly. Ooh, I don't know about the Provo kid and how the Feds recruit out of there. Interesting, dude. I'll have to check that out. And Jack and Liv episode, Skeptic, I deleted it, but there was one deep in the archives. You may still be able to find that one. And good for you, Skeptic, going to the gym. Proud of you, dude. Very proud of you. Yes, dude, exactly. The CIA, it's not like and please do, Kyle, but it's not they're not like this all-powerful organization, right? They've got unlimited funding, so they can mess up a bunch. But to think that they're calling up, let's say me, I have on average like 3,000 downloads per episode. And there's hundreds of people like me, to think that they're calling all these people that are so in the obscure and so in the depths of the internet to try and convince their 2,000 listeners or whatever to probably 10%, which might be like schizophrenic. I don't think so. I just don't. There's no benefit to that. The better people is to get these politicians and these middle of the road people, because then you can really, really control them. I don't know. I'm getting off on a tangent, but I keep seeing this. I keep seeing people like hating, like, dude, Nick Fuentes was sitting at dinner with Kanye West and Donald Trump. That's insane, dude. I would imagine if that was you would be thrilled. But okay, all right. So we're talking oil. This is where my wife says land the plane. She's right. She's right. We're here to talk gasoline. We're not here to talk my personal opinions here. But all right. So oil, right? We're running out. Cars, gasoline ran cars are banned in California after 2030. We're running out of gas. That's why the prices are going up. Oh boy, how wrong that is. And let's just start. Let's get started. So as World War II closed, the Army, as we know about Operation Paperclip, but they had over 3,000 teams with 10,000 investigators, the U.S. intelligence, OSS, high-level Army people, engineers, scientists, technicians, who visited thousands of these Nazi factories, scientific institutions, business premises to conduct these top secret interviews and cart away truckloads of documents and information. And I mean, like the OSS and top Army guys, they swarmed Germany. And we know this. Jim Mars, if you haven't read him, but we talk about the Die Glock, the bell, the Nazi bell. And the Nazi scientists, they were literally, I mean, if not like 20 years, at least a decade, 2 decades ahead of the U.S. science program. And I can't remember which book referenced this, but just, we assume everybody's the same. The Nazis approach science, and my poor metaphor, because I'm not a scientist, is that like we were Albert Einstein. We're in this theoretical, whatever. Just think Albert Einstein versus a Werner von Braun. That's the kind of difference. So they took science as a more, again, I'm butchering these terms. So that's the best way to describe it. So we're in more of like this crazy land. They're in also crazy land, but a different aspect of the crazy land. But regardless, so many documents were taken. Scientists were questioned by quote unquote soldiers. The soldiers, though, they would have no rank, no unit designation or insignia. So they were OSS officers. And it wasn't just like they went into a factory and said, all right, line up. We want to talk to all of you. Oh, no. They knew exactly which person they wanted to talk with. It wasn't like they were asking the lowly first-year scientists. No, they had the pictures and IDs of exactly who they wanted to. And we know all about like the V-2 rockets the Nazis created that bombarded London. We know about they even had guided missiles. They probably created nuclear weapons if they exist, at least very huge bombs. And the billions the Nazis dumped into their war machine, but they also pioneered so many other sciences, chemicals, specifically petroleum. And so they had a goal. This was the goal. This chat is made for derailing. It absolutely it is. It is. And I'm going to mute my wife in the chat pretty soon here. But anyway, so petroleum was another science they really focused in. And the reason this is why is because they needed to be able to make diesel fuel and gasoline, aviation fuel, but Germany has no oil deposits. And even though Standard Oil was shipping some gas to Spain, and then the Bahamas, and the Bahamas would take it to Spain, and Spain would take it to the Nazis. Of course, they denied that, never got in trouble for that. But they needed more than that, right? That's not going to satisfy their needs of this war machine that's in the middle of a war where everyone's put sanctions on them, is not trading them oil. So they have these top scientists, but what Germany does have is a large coal supply. So they got their scientists working together. What can we do with this? So before the war even started, the 20s and 30s, they were playing around with this idea: can we get gas from coal? And so they became known as the Fischer-Tropsch process. And so if you're like me, you have no idea what the Fischer-Tropsch process is. Let's explain the Fischer-Tropsch process, which I'll probably be calling FT process as the show goes on here. But basically, it's like 800,000 documents of pages of really smart science. But the basis is that the origin of oil is a naturally occurring phenomenon in which hydrogen and carbon bond with other things, and So they use this process to liquefy coal into gasoline, this Fischer-Tropsch process. And this was just the top of the surface for the FT process. So Germany, like I said, had virtually zero petroleum deposits, but they had abundant coal resources. So before the 20th century, not having oil didn't affect them at all. You had coal-powered your military ships, coal-powered everything, trains, as you guys, I'm sure, are aware of that, provided heating, commercial and home, filled the needs of the industry and military. But obviously coal was kind of going down in the 20th century. That was a big thing for World War I when Winston Churchill, he was behind actually converting all of the British Navy ships from coal to gas. And this put them as a huge advantage because coal, you had to stop more frequently to refill your coal supply that you're going to use to run your ship. Gas, you can sail much further with a gasoline, and that he was instrumental in doing that. It spent millions and millions and millions. He lied to get it done. He's such a scumbag, Winston Churchill. But so after the 20th century, the world became dependent on gasoline, diesel engines as cars, trucks, planes became more widespread. But since the 1920s, these two chemists, their names, I'm sure you won't be able to guess them, Fischer and Franz Fischer and Hans Tropsch, like around the 1880s, the 1940s, they developed these equations at Kaiser Wilhelm Institute for Chemistry, and that became known as the FT process. And basically, it defined a methodology to produce synthetic gas from coal. And IG Farben, modern day Bayer, that was also, do you guys know who Alyssa Milano is? I tried, I'll take care, dude. We'll connect. Absolutely. Thanks for stopping in. But you gotta, or what was I just saying here? Gas. Oh, Alyssa Milano. You guys know she's unbearable on Twitter. It just made me think of this because IG Farben became Bayer and a few other companies, but how she traded in her Tesla for a VW, the Nazi created Volkswagen. People so many companies are from Nazi Germany, but the IG Farben got major support from Mustache Man and proving the company could produce high quality aviation fuel. And by 1936, Farben was a totally government owned / private enterprise. Without this process, the Nazis would have lacked the resources to ever launch World War II. Churchill, and that took the coal ships and sent them to Gallipoli. Oh, I didn't know that. Skeptic. They sent him to Gallipoli. Where's that? He said the outdated coal-fired ships were sent them to Gallipoli from Churchill. And Skeptic, have you ever heard how Churchill totally lied about how he escaped from a POW camp in the Boer War? Oh my, it's pathetic. He crawled through mud for days and all this stuff like that. Oh, Turkey. Interesting. Huh. I wonder, I'm sure there's a reason why, but you're right. That is absolutely another show. But so without the process of this Fischer-Tropsch process, Nazi Germany couldn't have even began waging war. So the way they did it is in 1939, they already had 14 synthetic fuel plants in operation. 6 more were under construction. Their synthetic fuel plants, and I never knew this, maybe you guys did, 95% of the aviation fuel, almost 3 million metric tons of gasoline made by hydrogenated coal, it satisfied 75% of Nazi Germany's fuel demands. 75%. This wasn't gas. It was synthesized from coal using this Fischer-Tropsch process. Japan was the same thing. They lack petroleum deposits, but they have tons of coal. And they worked with Nazi Germany into developing synthetic fuel. Japan's coal reserve was so large, they estimated 400 to 500 years available to convert their coal into gas. In 1937, Japan planned to build 87 synthetic fuel plants, hoping to produce 6.3 million barrels annually. And though obviously they could not build that many, they still got up 15 plants producing 717,000 barrels of oil in 1944. But have you ever heard of this? Has any of you ever heard that Nazi Germany fought the war not using regular gas that comes out of the ground, No, they made it from coal. And why, like, I've read so many books on Nazi Germany. This has never been brought up before. And the reason probably why is because most people don't want you knowing that. I bet you ask 99.9% of the world, can you make oil from coal? And they would say, no, absolutely not. So the war ends, paperclip. We all know paperclip. It's like the level 1 conspiracy world, but the U.S. Army, we got first dibs on the Nazi scientists, and we knew we wanted these synthetic scientists. So by 1948, UK, Britain, Canada, Russian intelligence all attempted to understand, because they found out that the Nazis made their gas through coal, made the synthetic oil. I wonder if that's why the U.S. firebombed Dresden and Tokyo. Dude, and that we're going to get like kind of into that, but there's definitely like something we'll just get to it, because there's a study they did where the bombings, we dropped like 2.3 million tons of bombs on Europe in the World War II. Did it have a benefit? What did it do? So I'm definitely going to get into that in a second. But so paperclip, we bring over these Nazi scientists, no matter their crimes, to help our space program, our military industrial complex. And just so you know, the group that was in charge of Operation Paperclip, because this is between the creation of the war ends, you have the OSS done, but the CIA doesn't get created till 1947, probably doesn't get up and running until 1948. So the people, there's this other organization in charge. It was something like J Hop or J Co or J something, and they were so corrupt as well. The second, like the associate director of the whole program, was in charge of saying yes, rubber stamping yes or no on these Nazis coming into America. He got caught for committing treason. He was being paid by the Soviets to let them know who we were letting in. Maybe we'll let this guy in because he's actually a Soviet spy. And I think he got like 2 years in prison for it. God knows how much money he made. They didn't I think he might have not even gotten any time, because the government didn't want to bring up that their number 2 man was a traitor and secretly approving people that the Soviets wanted them to bring in. But I just found that, I just like that story always. But yeah, so and the last thing, their file for these Nazis, like scientists that would come in, I'm butchering this because it's not the exact word, but it's something exactly like this. So it would either say dangerous or not dangerous. And a lot of these scientists, they were dangerous. They're building weapons that have killed thousands of people. And all this J-Hop organization would do would write a little not dangerous right in front of it. And they'd get them right in. So, and I wasn't dangerous. It was, I can't remember what the word was, but it was something just like that. And it's just hilarious, like changing your report card from an F to an A. But we brought 7 synthetic fuel scientists, Helmut Pilcher and Leonard Alberts. Now, Pilcher, if you want to read the book, he goes real in depth in these people. I just want to go over the important things about them, because what does it really matter? But there's some things that will carry over. But he was the second most Fisher of the Fisher-Tropsch process. He was 70. Pilcher was his number 2 man. He is credited with doing the synthetic fuel process from this process, he also was able to use iron and cobalt and converting methane into hydrocarbon change like benzene and acetylene. And even though he helped with the fire bombs and murdering people and all these things, everything he did, the U.S. said, don't get your ass on in here, buddy. We need some oil. We want to learn. We want to pick your brain. We're sure you didn't mean to do it. Good enough for me. Not dangerous. Send him in. And he joined a company. Oh, God. The company he joined when he got to America, Pilcher, was Hydrocarbon Research, Inc., where he helped construct a commercial Fisher-Tropsch plant in Texas. And he claimed other scientists, because he was relatively, I wouldn't say like a bad guy. He was relatively normal. He was thankful to be in America. And he was telling his intel officers watching over him that, dude, these scientists you brought over, they're lying to you. They have much more information than they're letting on. And listen to this bombshell too. Up until 1940, German scientists, engineers with the consent of Nazi government. This is insane, guys. This is why all wars are fake. Nothing, they're all on the same team. Listen to this. So up until 1940, the German scientists and engineers with the consent of the Nazi government had been transferring the Fischer-Tropsch technical information to 6 companies. What were those 6 companies? Of the 6 companies that with that Standard Oil was broken up into. So this process that taught or understood how you could make crude oil and natural gas from not inorganic elements and like iron and all these things like that was past the Standard Oil. Isn't that just insane, dude? So Standard Oil, since at least 1940, was totally aware. The top gas companies in the world, in America, were totally aware that they're pushing a lie that these are fossil fuels, that these are a non-renewable resource, that they come from dinosaur bones, they come from algae and plankton, and once it's gone, it's gone. So you better stop. So they knew if that was so let's say like in the 70s during the gas embargo or whatever, the gas crisis, there's gas lines, that during that whole stressful time, the United States government had not only had the information and the capability, they had all the documents to produce our own synthetic oil from at least coal. And we're going to get into what more they could have done, but at a bare minimum, they could have solved the gas issue. They could solve the gas issue today. We could be completely self-sufficient. You know how much coal that still exists in America just sitting there? We don't, and we have also amazing petroleum deposits, but I'm just saying we could currently be spending gas could cost us $1 a gallon. If that, it could be we would be able to have so much oil, forget Saudi Arabia, forget all these countries. And that's how I know artificial scarcity like diamonds. Ooh, exactly. Skeptic. That's awesome. Exactly, dude. Doesn't that make you sick though? Like my dad, he's always talks to people. He's old and retired and he's listened. So he knows he's a young, older guy, but he loves talking to people. And he talks to like, wherever he goes, like the AT&T person or the T-Mobile person or like furniture. And he just went to the phone store and he told me about this guy who's helped him. They're not good with phones. And he drives 2 hours to get to work at this T-Mobile store every day, spending $4.20 a gallon. And there's millions of people like that are just trying to survive and get by. And the U.S. government has the ability to stop this, to lower the price to a reasonable price so people could afford to live. And do they do it? No. They just let you suffer because why do they care? And the fact that the Nazis were selling these secrets or giving these secrets to Standard Oil, if the Nazis were truly trying to make a superior German world or whatever, a one world Nazi government, why are they selling some of the most helpful, dangerous information possible to some horrible parasite capitalistic scumbag? Why would they be doing that? That doesn't make any sense. Oh, also, let's add this. In 1938, remember how I said where Pilcher, the Nazi scientist, the number 2 best guy in the process, where he went after a war, he went to work for Hydrocarbons Research Inc. So that was in 1945. Totally by chance, guys. Totally by chance. Standard Oil in 1938. Just by chance, they actually started beginning insane, massive amounts of purchase of a stock of a company that was relatively unknown at the time, Hydrocarbon Research Inc. Oh, amazing. So this is how did they know? How do they know that this could happen? So secret info, the top dogs at Standard Oil all knew. They knew that they could have some people start this company who would eventually, quote unquote, discover the known Nazi information and the information that Standard Oil knew, and they probably that. Could you imagine a stock if you release this, like this company is able to create synthetic oil, and you have millions of dollars in that stock? You bought it for when it just started. I mean, you would 100 times whatever your original investment, at least. And they're just so like that. They're just sick, dude. These people are sick. Farben and Standard had been cooperating regarding synthetic oil fuels since the 1920s. And we talked a lot about that in my the Anthony Sutton episodes, how Hitler was funded by Wall Street, Bolsheviks, all that stuff. And it's just that these people at the top, too, they are multinational, globalistic. They're disgusting, the scum of the earth. And it's like heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. And then the other guy I wanted to talk about, Leonard Alberts. So he was the other top Fischer-Tropsch process scientist behind Pilcher. So Pilcher, like I said, he denied being a Nazi. He just loved science like Werner von Braun did. Whatever, I'll let that go. Leonard Alberts was not like that. He loved the Nazis. He loved being a Nazi. He joined the Nazi party in like 1933. He was the best, though, at managing synthetic fuel plants. And the issue was they wanted to bring him over to run our synthetic fuel plants that we're going to create, or we were thinking about creating. And but the issue is the FBI, the OSS, everybody knows this guy is an ardent Nazi. And he spouses these political beliefs and all that stuff like that. But what does our intelligence organization do? They say, get your ass in here, buddy. Just come on, tone it down a little bit. Don't be too wild. And these are some of the quotes about this guy, Leonard Alberts. Quote, definite threat to the security of this country. Another quote, these are from FBI and like people that interviewed him before he came in. Would be a dangerous man to admit into the U.S. as a resident, because he would be given ample chance to learn of all details of our synthetic fuel programs in the country, and he may start dealing with Russia or any group who would pay. And this was more prevalent than you thought. All of our NASA scientists, or not all the German Nazi NASA scientists and regular Americans, they were sending the OSS, the CIA knew this, that the Nazi scientists were were mailing letters, what they're working on, to the Russian Nazi scientists. And we did nothing. So it just leads to this point that I really struggle to believe in war. I really don't. I think it's a big stretch that these are our actual enemies. They all work together at the top, whether it's just the capitalists, like the robber barons that are doing that, or even people on top of politics, which I would say that's true. Just funny. But regardless, they left Mr. Alberts, the ardent Nazi, let in his wife, his sister-in-law, his kids. And so now you got all our Nazi scientists over here from Paperclip and from these synthetic fuel scientists. And so in 1949, the U.S. opened our first synthetic fuel plants in Louisiana, Missouri, and they had over 400 employees and the 7 Nazi scientists. 50 to 52, Hydrocarbon Research Inc., where Pilcher would go on to work, was built in Texas. And the U.S. government was successful with the synthetic oil. They made it. They made it work. We were able to create gas from coal. What happened? Well, what happened? Well, there was no interest in this process from the petroleum companies. Quote unquote fossil fuels, they were abundant, profitable. They were already making millions, billions of dollars in profit a year. There's no need for these private industry to create a relatively, or at least maybe more expensive gas and synthetic oil when billions in profits were already being made with naturally produced hydrocarbon fuels gas. And by the 60s, the interest in the Fischer-Tropsch process was purely academic. The taxpayer, our parents, whatever, were funding to keep continually studying this process. And eventually it ends up in the Energy and Research Development Administration. And I believe the Energy Research and Development Administration is people pretty pretty much behind our climate crisis, our climate catastrophe in this day and age. So you can imagine, they really just have our best interest at heart. They want to save the planet. So they made sure that this information that we can make gasoline from coal got pushed down even further and further and further. Like the last thing they wanted to do, because who funds that group? Probably the gas companies, probably, predominantly gas companies and things like that. So they don't need the regulations, but smaller companies, they'll have hard regulations they can't get past. You get it. So as a result, the Nazi secret petroleum secrets languished. Hundreds, and I'm not exaggerating, hundreds of thousands of pages confiscated, top secret, energy solving the worldwide energy problem, world-changing papers on science, on the Fischer-Tropsch process remain classified until the 1970s. So that they're doing that to protect national security. Is that why they're doing it? Is that why they're hiding science, their God, their religion, who they worship in the temple of Fauci, science? Is that what science does? Oh, you hide earth-breaking, totally changing the world, the paradigm of what we believe. That's what you do. You hide that. Right. Yeah, that's good. You could literally probably solve so much poverty, so much death, so much unnecessary stress and strain on the public by lowering gas prices, and you choose not to. You choose to hide it. Eventually, though, Texas A&M students in the 70s, they knew about the Fischer-Tropsch process, so they tried to get their hands on some of the information to study it, and they got around 310,000 pages, microfilm reels. I mean, tons of 310,000 pages. That's a lot of pages, right, of science. Still, that wasn't even half of what they didn't get. Hundreds of thousands of these documents were deteriorated, had been ruined. They weren't even translated. And I know I keep saying this, like, how can this be possible? How could something that would change the world for the better, that would make America energy independent, they wouldn't do this. Imagine, like, if America now, we have so much oil, petroleum deposits that we're not allowed to touch or whatever. But say we were a country that didn't. I still believe America would sell. Like, I bet Germany, I guarantee you Germany, who's going to freeze its people this winter, they could use this process. Do you think they're doing it? No. How about the UK? I don't know how much coal UK has, but do you think that the countries in Europe that could use this process, that could create synthetic fuel, do you think they're allowed to look into that? No, they probably forgot about it. They probably have no idea, no clue, just like the rest of us have no idea what the Fischer-Tropsch process is and what it was able to do. Eventually, the FT process, it became synonymous with just liquefying coal, kind of like labeling gas, fossil fuels. It stigmatized the amazing breakthroughs as old hat. Like, that process. Yeah. I mean, it makes synthetic gas. You just take coal and you liquefy it. That's all that was in those 800,000 pages of documents, of top secret information that we hid from you for 30 years. It was boring. Just how to make that. I mean, guys, you think this, like, I already brought this up, but you think this process would have been valuable in a few times in American history. Say, like, during the oil embargo in 75 with Jimmy Carter, when you had a card and you had to wait in line and people were fighting, killing each other to get gasoline. Maybe that would have been a good thing to use. And I just thought of this too. The Man in the High Castle show that I've talked about, you guys should go watch it if you like it. If the Nazis in Japan won World War II. They have a protest in San Francisco, which is controlled by Japan, because they don't have any oil to cook all these things. But that's factual. That's historically incorrect, because Japan was actually making their fake oil. So, okay, but that has nothing to do with it. I saw it. Oh, Truth and Doubt. You saw Man in the High Castle, dude. I read the book. If you didn't read the book, don't read it. It sucks compared to the show. My opinion, of course. And so maybe today the Nazi secrets totally remain hidden from public view. Why? Because that's exactly what the US government and the US oil companies want. And maybe as of now, that doesn't sound too bad. Like I said, oh, it's just coal-based gas, except it's not. Hundreds of thousands of these papers contain secrets far beyond our wildest dreams. Leonard Albert, the ardent Nazi, was quoted saying, "I am quietly pleased because the American scientists saw nothing else in his extensive research." All they saw was this liquefying coal. Oh, Skeptic, you're on episode 3. Dude, it's so good, but only like it gets real sci-fi at the end, and I like sci-fi, but I think the first 2 seasons are the best. But I actually I'm rewatching it again. I got to stop. And Skeptic, I know but I love talking to you guys in the chat. So if you like that historical, like alternative history, I'm reading a book by a guy named Harry Turtledove, and he's got like an 8-book series, but it's what if the South won the Civil War? And he has a time travel guy. They bring him AK-47s and they just whoop Abe Lincoln. It's an awesome book. I'm like almost done with it, but it's a similar concept. So yeah, so they just let these things go away. The German fuel scientist, he didn't just liquefy coal. All right, that's not what this process was. They cracked the code that God built into chemistry. Deep in the research, the FT process postulated that hydrocarbons form naturally in the mantle of the earth on an ongoing basis that continues to this day. No, that can't be right. It's dinosaurs, guys. It's dinosaurs and plankton dying, and something else happens that scientists don't really know, pressure and heat, at just the right things, and that's what makes oil. There's no oil in Afghanistan, but there's tons in Saudi Arabia, because this is what happened. The dinosaurs that were in Afghanistan, they said, "Oh shit, we got to get out of here. Let's go to Saudi. Let's all jump into Saudi Arabia and die in the same field." That's why there's all that stuff there. Yeah, definitely check it out, dude. Mantle there. So they reveal formulas which compounds, including hydrogen and carbons, in the process they could do with iron ore or cobalt, and they could make other various hydrocarbon change. And what this is saying is that they're able to use iron ore and cobalt to create chemicals that are on the, like the periodic table or whatever, things that are biotic, that supposedly only nature can create, like oil, and whatever things that they say, helium, we'll say, or whatever, that nature creates, that you can't create it unless it's a lot like a natural process. You can't manufacture it, and that was the common thought for a long time. But that's what this is saying. The Fischer-Tropsch process is saying you can make biotic oil, hydrogen, whatever, by using in abiotic materials like iron ore, cobalt, what have you. And so the FT process revealed how gas and oil are formed in the first place, challenging the fossil fuel theory and its origin. And now we're kicking now. Just wait. I have my soundboard, but it's not as good as I thought. So I don't have. You can just imagine I hit a button that's exciting. Okay, here. So Russia and deep earth oil. So only Soviet Russia, under the pressure of Stalin, actually benefited from the Nazi petroleum secrets. On November 3rd, 1944, before the end of the war, Roosevelt, one of the top 5 worst evil presidents in American history, issued a directive for the government to determine whether the bombing, here's what Skeptic and I were just kind of talking about, to determine whether the bombing that we had done in the war served any purpose. What did dropping 2.7 million tons of bombs on Europe accomplish, everybody? And it was called the United States Strategic Bombing Study. Every known aircraft factory in Germany was hit, okay? Every known one. Just so you guys know, the Imperial Palace in Japan, it was never hit. Their Mitsubishi plants that they were building weapons and bombs and things like that, they hit some of them, but other ones, they didn't hit. Now, if you're in a war and your fellow Americans are dying, where do you hit first? Do you avoid the weapons plants? Do you avoid the imperial palace where their god emperor resides, where they were fighting and they will fight until he says stop? Well, yeah, if you wanted to end a war, that's probably would be my first targets. Weird how we were just bombing random houses where people lived in metropolis areas. But yeah, so what did the bombing do? So in 1944, the Nazis, this is an insane statistic. Oh, wait, the first dinosaur bones were discovered in Saudi Arabia in 2014. Hilarious, dude. Wait, are you being facetious, skeptic, or the first dinosaur bones that Saudi Arabia had were discovered in 2014? I don't know if it's we're joking or not, but okay. So 1944, the Nazi scientists had 40,000 aircrafts of different, planes, whatever. In 1942, so 4 years previous, 2 years previous before the bombings really kicked off from America, when the Nazis were kind of like they're relatively, they're on the way down. They haven't accepted full defeat yet. They still think maybe they got a chance. But before the bombing started, they had 16,000 aircraft. So how in the hell did dropping 2.7 million tons of bombs increase Nazi aircraft production by 30,000? How are they able to build 30,000 more aircraft equipment, airplanes, weapons of death, if we're bombing them with over 3 million tons of bombing? Explain that. So why did we bomb them then if they tripled their production of skeptic? You're so nice. Goodbye, Livy. I'll see you soon. Okay, yeah, but how could they do that? That doesn't make any sense. So even though the bombings started, the Nazis were able to produce aircrafts. Why? Oh, they found fossils in Saudi Arabia for the first time in 2014. And skeptic, I'd be interested to see where you fall under. Do you believe in dinosaurs? Because I don't really believe in dinosaurs. I think dragons are much more realistic, but I wonder if maybe they found a dinosaur bone there to just be able to say, see, that's why we have so much oil. Tons of dinos die. It's a dino graveyard. War is a large culling and upgrading of military theory and arms. Oh, I like that. Culling and upgrading. Like that. I agree. Yeah, I agree. Totally. So why were they able to produce this? Well, the bombings destroyed the buildings, but the machines had durability. These are great mechanics in Germany. The Germans reorganized the management of aircraft plants, subdividing them into many small units, so they were immune to the massive bombing rate. So if maybe you got hit your propeller unit, well, you can just rebuild a small propeller unit. You don't need to rebuild a whole factory. Thus, the massive, this is enough to make someone cry. The massive amounts of money, violence, death of civilians, women, children, babies, starving, raping, pillaging, all this stuff from these bombings did nothing to slow the production of German aircraft. And I know that doesn't have to deal with gas, but isn't that fascinating? So our 2.3 million tons of bombings did nothing. Except kill probably innocent civilians. So what's the point? Because war isn't about winning. They're all on the same team. It's just about, just like MacMan just said, culling and upgrading of military equipment. Able to produce aircraft. Gas, though, their synthetic gas was not the same, though. They could build the planes, but the thing is, they could not rebuild the synthetic oil plants that gave them gas. So synthetic plants fell from 316 tons a month to 5,000 tons a month when the bombing started. And Stalin saw this, and he said the Soviets, Stalin, my views on him are he wasn't really a full-blown like Bolshevik communist. He was more nationalistic, kind of like you could think of a Lumumba in the Congo, or like the Guatemalan guy that I talk about every podcast, who tried to do a good thing and then the CIA overthrew him and had 1.25 million people out of a population of 4 murdered. But a lot of those leaders, Castro, They're communists, but they're more nationalistic, and so they just get labeled that way. And I'm sure Stalin was an evil person, but I'm just saying this to differentiate. That's why he is not liked by a lot of like the tankies on communist world. They don't like Stalin because he is so nationalistic as opposed to all the other guys, you know. I think the most heavily bombed areas in history was Laos at the Plain of Jars during Vietnam. 2 million tons. Well, how else do you think we're going to stop those rice paddy shacks that people live in? They're dangerous. They're going to blow up America. They're going to come over and conquer us in those things. We had to bomb them to smithereens. Sarcasm. If you're not watching me, you can't see my smile. So, but yeah, so their synthetic oil failed, and Stalin did not want to be dependent on foreign oil. He wanted to become self-sufficient. So only issue at the time was Russia couldn't access their petroleum. So he ordered his scientists because as we know, Russia has a huge petroleum deposits, but it's very deep. And in those days, they were not able to access that. So he ordered his scientists to study the FT process, the Fischer-Tropsch process, to learn what the Germans knew. And in 1940, Stalin commissioned an exam into every aspect of petroleum. How is it created? Why? Why reserves are formed? How can it be discovered, extracted? And between 1940 and 1995, the Soviet Union, they did 347 scientific publications, continuing research on the Fischer-Tropsch process. 170 patents were created. But in 1951, top Russian gas scientist created his Russian-Ukrainian theory, that's what it's called, for deep abiotic petroleum origins. So this paper was written in 1951. And what was this paper about? Basically, the whole paper is about how it is a total horseshit that oil is formed from the remains of ancient plant and animal life that died millions of years ago. And this was written by the top petroleum scientist in the Soviet Union, Professor, I'm going to butcher this, Kudry Astev. And he said, oil has nothing to do with organisms rotting into petroleum. I ridicule that idea because it's ridiculous. And he's absolutely right. That makes, again, like, I always laugh now at the things these PR like leaders tell us because it's so insane. Like how cow farts are causing the ice caps to melt. What? Dude, is this a stand-up bit? You're telling, like, is it just cow farts or all farts? If it's all farts, then maybe let's pick a different animal. I'm not a fan of, what's an animal I'm not a fan of? Get rid of them if they're farting up a storm. Yo, what's up, Greg? What's going on, dude? Thanks for stopping in, buddy. Greg's a good friend of mine. Okay. Dependence on foreign oil. Sorry. See, when I get off topic, then I lose my notes where they create all these patents. He laughed at. So according to, nothing to do with organisms rotting. But his theory, along with dozens of other scientists, said oil did not come from once alive biotic material. It did not, or plants or animals. Instead, the Fischer-Tropsch process equations showed that oil was a natural product of the earth itself, and that it's manufactured at deep levels where there was no plants or animals. So again, let's just revamp that. So oil is being produced, according to the Fischer-Tropsch process, at such deep levels of the earth. There are no decomposed animals there. There are no decomposed plants. So how is oil that deep then? Fossil fuel people. How is it down? How did it get down? Did a bronchosaurus take a shit and that's why the oil was formed and it just blew a hole in the the earth? No, that makes zero sense. And so today, abundant oil could be was found in Russia if they were able to dig deep enough. And today, Russia rivals Saudi Arabia as the world leading producer of crude oil. And just to be clear, the theory of Kudryavtsev in this book is that you can create synthetic oil not just from coal, but from a variety of substances. And not only that, oil is a naturally reproducing substance on Earth. It's not running out. It won't run out. That it's naturally producing. The Earth continues and continues to produce oil. It's just a replenishing liquid. And we're gonna let's continue. Justin, hey man, thanks for coming, buddy. I always enjoy seeing you. Mr. Terrible, what a name. Didn't some Russian scientists say oil? Yeah, Mr. Terrible. It was actually in 1956 the Russian scientists said that. So you're absolutely right. Just a little off on the time. And his name, if you want to look him up, Mr. Terrible, is, I'm going to butcher it again, but Professor Kudryav Stev. Or you can read this book by Jerome Corsi too. It's fossil fuels is science, bro. Rockefeller scientists said so. And boy, let's just keep going. So the Russians believed it's never running out. These are brilliant men. I mean, the Russian space program was better than the American space program. So, these aren't backwards people. Is it still limitless? Isn't Saudi oil limitless too? That's like a good question. Is it limitless in the same oil fields? Probably, because the Saudis, supposedly they were supposed to run out of oil from their super oil plants like 20 years ago, and they actually just keep producing more and more and more. But what the point is, Saudi's oil, we're going to get into that too, but Saudi's oil, it's the reason why they have so much oil is most of the oil is so deep that we can't get to it, but they have a certain tectonic plate set up in these porous rocks that the oil is more closer to the surface. And that's why that's why like Russia never knew they had these huge amounts of oil, because it was so low. Mr. Terrible, just wait. We're going to destroy that theory and how they said that it would peak oil. That's the next chapter soon. The oil found in the surface of the earth and sediment. So just kind of how my friend Greg asked about the oil that with Saudi Arabia and a lot of these other places is near the surface of the earth. And it's in sedimentary rock structures that was formed at deep levels of the earth, the oil, and it rises through the cracks. It pools in a certain area in Earth's bedrock into more porous sedimentary rock. And that's where it just forms like a pool in these certain locations. And that, like America, for example, when we had, when we first discovered the first oil, Drake's well in Western Pennsylvania, this oil was like coming out into streams. You know what I mean? And that's why we eventually, quote unquote, ran out of oil, because it just got too deep that we didn't have the technology to access it at this point. In nature, hydrogen and carbon do not require the intervention of any dead ancient fauna, flora, no plankton or algae to get it together. So this gas, it's a natural element, right? It's abiotic. It's formed from natural sources. How does hydrogen carbon, is that how they get made too? They get made out by, they get made not from dinosaurs. They get made from actually, I was trying to make a joke and I failed. You get it. Oh, Viking Finn. Thanks, dude. Thank you, dude. Thank you. That was so nice. He said, you should have thousands and tens and thousands of subs. Legend. I think you're a legend, bro. Dude, look at all these people. Thank you for everyone's jumping in the chat. We're about to get in the good part too. So you guys came in the perfect time. So for anyone just joining, Fischer-Tropsch process was this Nazi created process to study, how could we make our own oil, because we don't have our oil deposits. They came up with a way to make coal into oil. 75% of the Nazi military's oil during World War II was created through the Fischer-Tropsch process. We get the documents. U.S. government and and Standard Oil let them all go bad, never translate, and that's the end of it. Okay, so now, or is it? Dun, dun, dun. So the idea that oil derives from ancient debris is literally considered fact, right? If you went up to somebody and you said, "Oh, oil isn't from a dinosaur," they'd laugh at you. If you try to put that in school, they would laugh at you. So how did this idea start? And we love this stuff. First, how do fossils make fuel? I would love. What is the chemical process? How about that? Come on, scientists, that you believe that this is the case. Show me the chemical equation that by which decaying plants, dinosaurs, or plankton are supposed to decay into oil. I mean, it's basically just a hodge. When if you would ask them that, it's just a hodgepodge of smart science words that they can't back up. Oh, Justin, dude, you were awesome. Thank you. Barabbas, thank you. So nice. Ooh, Macman, God, gold, oil, drugs. I like that a lot, dude. That's America's CIA's 3 favorite things. I love it. But yeah, just like how, and I'm not like a flat earther, but there's so many scientific concepts that we have to accept as theory of evolution. That's a great one. Can you show me the evidence of that? Can you prove to me? Can you show me each link of how that I supposedly came from a monkey? Show me each link. I mean, that's your theory, right? So you should, and we accept it as fact. You should be able to prove that. They can't. And it's the same way that fossil fuels are created from energy. And Brian, this author did Rockefeller start the oil story? Kind of. It wasn't exactly, he doesn't go in exactly how the term's created, but I'll tell you, we'll get into how at least it holds, how it grew into that as a fact. Does oil seek level like oceans, or does it curve with the globe? Bam. That's a good question, Corn Pulp. Hey, my God, thank you, Winnipeg. All right. You guys, too many compliments. I won't be able to leave the room. I won't be able to get out of my house here. Stop. You guys are making my day. Yeah, hodgepodge of, okay. So basically they said, this is what science will tell you how fossil fuels create gas. It's like a kitchen compost bin, guys. So anaerobic bacteria go to work on decaying organic material, and they turn the decaying, the deteriorating T-Rex into a substance called kerogen, which is an immature oil. And when kerogen, and only if, guys, only if, this is why we're running out of oil. Kerogen is found if it's found at depths between 6 and 13,000 feet, temperature and pressures have to be just right. Boom. That's how you get oil. So chemical textbooks, do you think they have the chemical formula for kerogen? No. Do they have the transformation from kerogen to fossil fuels evidence to prove that? Have they ever reproduced that in a lab? Have they ever, this seems like a pretty basic thing. Let's get some kerogen and let's convert it into oil then to prove this. Have they ever done that? No. You just got to believe the experts, guys. Trust them. That's how it works. That's how it works. It's literally the fossil fuel is a religious belief to these people. There is no observable process. You cannot recreate it in a lab. And it's like, guys, Santa's real. And you would say, well, Jack, how do you know Santa's real? And I'd say, you have presents under your Christmas tree, don't you? And then I'd walk away and say, Santa denier. You see, like, it's just, and this is why science has never challenged this. And the people that do, they lose tenure. They get ostracized. Look at all the scientists that talk about global climate change and things like that. Has any scientist ever taken a flask of plankton, algae, and produced a hydrocarbon fuel out of the mixture? Or is this, again, they have not. They have never done this. So is this process it's magic? We can't do it, but the earth can do it. I find that pretty difficult to believe. Do you don't believe in the tooth fairy, the oil fairy? I'm gonna put that one. Nice. Dinosaurs fake, dragons real. I agree. Oil could be what the dragons use for their fire, ingesting it before battle. Ooh, dude, I like that. Is there oil under the Mariana Trench? There's oil like so deep under the earth all over. It gets produced in the mantle somewhere, very deep in the mantle with all this heat and pressure, and it just rises. So yeah, there could absolutely be, there's tons of oil in the ocean. So it's totally possible that it's down there. Methane. Oh, here we go. This is gonna blow your mind. This is gonna be so fun. This is fun here. Okay, so methane, the fart smell, methane gas. In 2004, guys, methane gas, which is it was considered a biotic material, just like oil. But in 2004, a guy named Henry Scott synthetically produced methane in a lab without using any organic materials. He took iron oxide, calcium carbonate, and water temperatures at 500 degrees Celsius under pressure of 11 gigapascals. 1 gigapascal is the pressure of 10,000 atmospheres. So, that's like me just doing this. I'm joking. Obviously, okay. That was a bad joke. Anyway, so basically, Scott was doing the Fischer-Tropsch process, probably a little not knowingly, using diamonds to help add the pressure. So they smashed the iron oxide, the calcite, and water together. And what we would expect to see in the earth. And what do you think happened, guys? Scott he broke science. He rewrote the accepted science fact that you could create methane, a natural gas, by using inorganic materials and pressure. I'll say it again. He made an organic chemical from inorganic materials. So what does that say about oil? Oil's the exception, everybody. And let's continue. In 1828, German chemist Wohler, he created urea, which by heating cyanic acid and ammonia. So urea is an organic substance isolated metabolically that it's generated in the urine, has been created by combining inorganic chemicals. So this totally broke the presumption that organic chemistry was devoted to a living class of chemicals and possibly contained a vital life force. So in a similar fashion, if methane can be created synthetically from inorganic chemicals, if urea can be created from inorganic materials, is petroleum the only hydrocarbon material that cannot be created by inorganic materials? Oh, yeah, guys. No, we can do methane. We can do all these things. Gas, totally different story. Dinosaurs. That's why. These don't have anything to do with dinosaurs. Prior to the Industrial Revolution was their big oil market. They sold oil in as a health cure, as a cure-all. Like I said, in Western PA, how Edwin Drake found the first well. He found his well because this well was seeping every morning. The stream or the creek had oil all on top of it, so they would bottle it up. I mean, it was a huge thing. People were drinking oil all the time as a cure-all, using child oil labor for mining cobalt. Drilling for oil is better than acres of lithium mine. Absolutely, dude. And that's how we know. I mean, all of us, we know that's a huge lie, but it's just so I guarantee you, again, nobody knows that you could create oil from coal as it is, let alone what we're going to get into. Thomas Gold. So Thomas Gold, he was a professor of astronomy at Cornell University. In 1998, he publishes a book, The Deep Hot Biosphere, The Myth of Fossil Fuels. And he took up the brave position. He took up the position that the Russian deep abiotic theory was right, that oil is a naturally reoccurring substance. Fossil fuels has nothing to do with it. And despite being ignored, the American science gas industry totally ignored that Russian propaganda, Russian study. And but so anyway, Thomas Gold, he's born in Switzerland. He was held in the British POW internment camp for a while because they thought he was a spy. But eventually he gets hired by Cornell to chair their astronomy department. And he theorized that hydrocarbons are not organic chemicals resulting from life processes like the disintegration of dinosaurs on Earth, like they say for the fossil fuel theory, but rather that hydrogen is a fundamental element readily available in the universe. This knowledge did not cross over to geologists who think hydrocarbons as only forming through life. So hydrocarbons in various forms, including methane gas, crude oil, were fundamental building blocks of the Earth as it formed. And Gold eventually arrives at the same theory as the Russians, that oil formed over millions of years, And if you go deep enough into the mantle of the earth, you will find it abundant everywhere. And the only reason why we find oil in the sedimentary rock that's around the same areas, the supposed dinosaurs and algae or whatever, is because it's porous enough for the oil moving towards the Earth's surface to pool into, or because there's fissures in the crust of the Earth have permitted this deep mantle oil to seep up from the mantle to pool in the sedimentary rock. He postulates that the hydrocarbons that were formed through abiotic processes, but also that hydrocarbons would seep from deep water vents, providing gases, fluids needed for microbes to live without the need of light or photosynthesis for nourishment. Nourishment. Oh, and then so Gold confirmed that they found if you believe in space, I don't know, but this story, Gold confirmed that they found abiotic oil found on Titan. So what does that mean? So NASA scientists, they supposedly landed the probe on Titan in 2005. That's the giant moon of Saturn. And they found out that Titan contains abundant methane there. And this was the quote by NASA, Gold, we have determined that Titan's methane is not of biological origin. So it must be replenished by a geological process on Titan. Mic drop. So now we have methane. We have, I forget the other two already, but you get the point I'm trying to make here. Another a biotic chemical that supposedly can only be created with, natural process or whatever, was being generated, replenished continually on a continual basis on Titan. And they said perhaps it's venting from its supply in the interior that could have been trapped there as the moon formed. And Titan has hundreds of times more liquid hydrocarbons than all the known oil, all the known natural gas reserves on Earth. It's a literal giant factory of organic chemicals. Now, are there dinosaurs on Titan? Did they also get hit? Did cow farts ruin their world? Possibility. We don't know. But isn't that hilarious? So it's just Earth where it's from the dinosaurs. Everywhere else, we don't really know how it's replenishing hydrocarbons. And Gold talks about this in his book about his deep sea diving submarine. It explored these sea vents and like near the Galapagos Islands. And it was 4 to 5 miles below the surface of the ocean. They term it the Lost City. And it's this hydrothermal field that was living off deep earth hydrocarbons. It was venting out calcium carbonate in chimneys that would reach up. And basically what this means is this exploration of this lost city confirmed Gold's hypothesis that the sea bottom life deriving nourishment not from photosynthesis, but from the abiotic venting from deep within the water onto the sea floor, also confirming that the Fischer-Tropsch process, that deep water hydrocarbons are abiotic in nature. So again, just more and more statistics showing that oil is not a decomposing dinosaur. It's a naturally occurring process that occurs on Earth. We will never run out of oil. It just keeps going and going. Oh, this is a hilarious. This is we were talking about fossil fuels and stuff. This is we're almost done too, but this is one of the best parts of the story. So in 2011, a paper authored by scientists from the University of California, Lawrence Livermore, Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory and Shell Products Technology, entitled the paper "Stability of Hydrocarbons at Deep Earth Pressures and Temperatures." So the scientists revealed how hydrogen may be formed from methane deep within the Earth at extreme pressures, temperatures. Basically, again, just proving that hydrocarbons were being formed from methane. And so this leads you to assume, well, could petroleum possibly be created by an abiotic process? Were we good on the dinosaurs being a quote unquote story? Yeah, it's definitely a story. I don't believe in them. Is that what you mean, Brian? And I haven't seen you. I hope you're doing well, Brian. Hope you had a nice Thanksgiving. Dinosaurs in space, that's what they teach us first. Both stories. I agree. I agree. Okay, let's continue with this paper. So this was 2011. So they're saying that methane is created by abiotic process. Petroleum, though, is the only one. And the authors of this paper, actual expert scientists, what did they do? Did they stand by their findings? Did they stand by the information that they discovered? They said, no, they didn't. They didn't. They said, oh, well, so methane works this way. You can have abiotic processes that create methane, but oil doesn't. It's the only oil. No. Oil doesn't. It's purely biological in origin, guys. And geologists, this is all in their like response after getting heat from, whoever. They said 99% of geologists, 99.9% of geologists know that hydrocarbons in crude oil and natural gas are formed by decomposition of remains of living organisms. I mean, how insane and disgusting is that? These people are scientists. Is this what science is? Is this what accepting half-truths, accepting the truth that your benefactor tells you to present to me? This is why I don't trust any single expert, and I'm sure you guys feel the same way. How can I trust you? Science has lied every corner, every time. There is no science. It's not honest. So you think, oh, because you have 4 degrees and you use some big words that I don't know, that I should automatically believe you? Who pays you? Are you getting paid by a $1 billion company? I'm sure you're going to be honest if you have something bad to say about them, right? In the fossil fuel paradigm, let me just see here. And so there's this guy, a physicist, Thomas Kuhn, and he pointed out in his book that the structure of scientific revolutions, new ideas are not a gradual process in science, but it's a major revolution. For instance, the sun, the planets all revolve around the earth versus the planets around the sun. And when new theories get brought up, their view, because science is a religion to many people, you're a heretic. This is heresy. How dare you? That's a conspiracy theory. And they have to fight their way to acceptance against a legion of established, funded, media-backed opponents who, and now you're also not only that, you're challenging somebody's core belief that they have had their whole life. Kind of like, I think that's why flat earth gets people so upset, because it's, and I'm not a flat earther. I'm just saying, because I think you're challenging people's beliefs that this is the way. It's gospel. It's canon. It's exactly the way. And if you have a totally different idea, they can't handle it, dude. They spent all these, maybe they feel they wasted time, what have you, but it's a heresy. It's a religion, And fundamentally, the concept of fossil fuel, just a side note here, totally violates the second law of thermodynamics. Imagine you have a neck of a balloon blown up. You let go, the air rushes out. How do you force the air back into the balloon? You need to expend more energy. So I don't know how that violates the second law of thermodynamics. I just wrote it down. I think what they're saying is like dinosaurs decompose into energy. I don't know. And that doesn't work, right? I think like you need something to create that to make it energy. And then Kuhn said, and the Bible teaches dust unto dust. And I believe in the Bible, not dust unto oil. And, it smells bad. That's why we bury people. People weren't burying their grandmother, their loved ones, and putting, a gas siphon next to them to catch all the oil that's going to come off their grandma. And that was another thing. Why only dinosaurs? And is it because they're old? It takes that many years to create oil? I see. You see, their theories are so pathetic and stupid, but people are stupid, and we believe them. Kuhn said within decades, and this was 1962, that we thought gas was fossils. We will laugh, just as we've laughed that the sun revolves around the earth. All right, and this is the last one, probably 10 more minutes. Ooh, Earth's concave. We're inside a hollow sphere. I like it, Darren. I was a big hollow Earth guy for a while. And I still like that idea. But okay, this is the last, and this is the good one. So Hubert's Peak and the running out of oil scare. The running out of oil scare is built into the myth that is fossil fuel. Americans parrot the myth that oil is fossil fuel without realizing they are affirming an oil law defined by Malthusians, and Malthusians are, just forget that I use that word because we'll talk about it in a little bit. But basically, Americans defend this theory because they're defending big oil profits, and they don't see that. Let's empty the cemeteries and make some human oil, right? On it, but seriously, that's how ridiculous this is. You would drown in oil in hollow earth. That's funny. That made me laugh. That's good. You would, or you'd be swimming with dinosaurs in the oil. You'd have a head of a bronchosaurus. All right. So this is the logic of oil. So if there's so many ancient dinosaurs, so many ancient forests to rot into oil, that means there's a finite number of oil, right? Once we're done with all the dinosaur bones, we're done with the oil. So these are two self-reinforcing concepts, neither of which can be disproven because each implies the other. Does that make sense? And if the oil is fossil fuel, then we're running out. And if we're running out, that's because oil is derived from non-renewable natural resources like dinosaurs and plankton left over from eons past. Fossil fuel theorists gain nothing from shifting ground away from the dead dinos as the presumed origin. And how many times peak oil, if peak oil, fails to occur at the predicted times, which happens about 80 times already, if they can just move the time prediction out to an even further date, there's no bad, they're not losing anything. It's so ingrained in them that it's a fossil fuel. They're like, okay, oh, good. We have another 10 years until peak oil. Good. Let's get that solar panel on my house. And the abiotic theory origin of oil does not have the necessary conclusion that the world is running out of oil anyway. And we will never run out of oil is the conclusion. So Hubbard's peak. So this is like the last big thing. But Hubbard's peak, he's the most famous of running out of oil formulation. It's known as Hubbard's peak. And he's a geophysicist in 1956. Who does he work for? Who do you think Hubbard works for? The man that created the peak oil theory. Oh, he works for the reputable organization that is the Shell Oil Research Lab in Houston. And he publishes a graph that predicts that the U.S. oil production would peak in the 1970s. Well, he was effing off. And his graph, it looked just like a normal bell curve, showing almost zero production in the early 1900s. And then in the early 70s, where it starts dropping off gradually, going back until by 2050, no more. So 1970 was the Standard Oil. Yes, Shell was a break off of Standard. And literally, none of this graph is based off empirical evidence. It is purely anecdotal. Rockefeller, Standard Oil. I think Shell is a Standard Oil subsidiary. When's the Kojak Kwanzaa breakdown? It's a good question, dude, because that's a relatively new made up. I'm a Hess guy. I remember I'm from Allentown, PA, Mr. Terrible. So I like the Hess trucks. In the middle of the sea, deeper, it concaves, or concaves. Oh, Darren, I can tell you're smart on whichever side you're arguing for. You're smarter than me, but I would love to learn more about what that says. So yeah, purely anecdotal accounts that Hubbard created his peak oil chart. And like his graph, it's built our common belief on oil. It was like a guy who's like, you're like, hey, did you do the homework assignment? He's like, oh shit. And he just like wrote like, okay, oil's going to, there's no evidence. He just made it up. So Hubbard's graph in 2050 goes back to zero, just like 1874 before Drake's Well in Western PA. And using his peak oil chart, experts in the 70s predicted peak oil would be, so they changed it now. Oh, okay, we're getting more oil. No, it's not the 70s. It's 2004 to 2008. And then a Princeton professor, Dreyfus, a geologist who worked with Hubbard at Shell, he was at a meeting when Hubbard was releasing his prediction for the first time, and DeFace pleaded with him. He said, please withdraw this prediction. This isn't, how do we know this? This isn't provable. And Hubbard went ahead with the prediction anyway. And shockingly, totally flabbergastedly, U.S. oil companies embraced Hubbard's peak oil hypothesis immediately. If oil is running out, it's scarce. Scarce resources command premium prices. Oil companies had zero economic any relation. That's a great question. And I think it's Hubbard. It's Hubbert as opposed to Hubbard. So Bbert. But that's a great question. Oil under the Hess Mansion. Probably deep enough, dude. Deep enough. It's probably there. But so yeah, they have no reason to alert Americans that Nazis creating synthetic oil. They have no reason to create that oil is not a fossil fuel, even as more and more and more oil reserves are being found in the ocean or deep in the earth. And oil was found at depths where no dinosaur, that's the biggest thing. Oil is being found at depths where no dinosaur, where no plankton, where no forest, where no algae ever lived, now or in ancient times. So, and Dreyfus, who called out Hubbard's prediction, he wasn't a good guy. He continued along this path. He just added a few new lines and curves, raised oil production of levels, and just pushed down the peak oil graph, despite the mounds of empirical data that's already been obtained that proved peak oil was a myth. Successes in Alaska, offshore Gulf Coast, all this it was data that he manipulated to maintain their theory of peak oil. And that's what science is. Even then, in the 50s and 60s, that's what science is. Corruption. They are scientists, experts, whatever. Not only are they corrupted and manipulated, but many don't believe in God. And science is their God. And if they have that belief and they worship Fauci, they worship Pfizer. If you correct them with actual evidence, they suffer this cognitive dissonance. So think the misinformation. I mean, that's why so many Twitter psychos get so mad when you show them evidence that they're wrong. They can't accept it. They cannot accept it. And they get so angry because if it's not science, it's Joe Biden, it's Donald Trump, that's their God. So when you criticize them with evidence, you say, oh, Donald Trump let his supporters on January 6th rot in jail, but he pardoned Lil Wayne and an Israeli spy that was spying on the U.S. And they'll freak out. They'll say, "Why?" Because it's a religion. They can't handle this. And that's the same way climate change is. That's the same way peak oil is. They call it, and you're a heretic. You're a heretic. You're ostracized, especially if you're a colleague. Good luck getting tenure. Good luck getting another job. And this peak oil wasn't the only thing. The Malthusian, he was this guy that said in 1789, he was like Hubbard. He said that eventually, we won't be able to feed all of the world. We're going to die. Population. Then there's going to be war. It's going to lower the population to a lower level that we could all support on food, with the food. And Kodak Black. Yes. Don't forget Kodak Black. Oh God. But just like the peak, this Malthusianism, he was wrong, but his followers, even now, they still say, no, he's right. But what do these guys, Malthusians, Hubbard, what do they forget to leave out in these predictions of peak oil and peak food and stuff? We are inventive, people. That's why they want to dumb us down. Humans are amazing, amazing creatures when we're allowed to explore and study and invent, as opposed to being taught to be a drone. And that's why they're doing this. They're teaching us to be a drone. So we have to believe what they say. Pressy, hilarious. The dinosaurs took the gene. You guys know what? Hilarious. That's Pressy. That could be like a stand-up bit. That's good. That's hilarious. Economic edgelords. Okay. Cut back populations. Last thing. This is big too. So I just want to make sure I got the doomsday analysis of petroleum running out is causing issues. There's more petroleum than ever before. Guys, we keep finding super oil fields. There are more crude oil reserves worldwide in an ever recorded history, despite worldwide consumption doubling since the 70s. The EIA reports in 2009, worldwide oil reserves exceeded 1.3 trillion barrels, compared in 2000 with 1.02 trillion barrels. And this isn't the first time this happened. Since the 1980s, 645 billion barrels in 1980, 670 billion in 90, 1 trillion in 95, 1 trillion in 95, sorry guys, my 99 billion in 95, 1 trillion in 90 in 99, the 1.2 trillion in 2000, 1.3 8 years later. These numbers keep increasing. And another reason, last reason why it's a total hoax, was in 2008, after the economic mortgage bubble burst. Oil prices sparked to $147 a barrel, highest price ever, only to recede to $40 a barrel by the end of the year, before the end of the year. When the prices spiked, the peak oil stands said, see, oil production slowing down. That's why it's going up. We're running out of oil. Except the price crashed back down to normal values months later. Why? And it's much more simple than all of this peak oil and whatever. It's supply and demand. There were these huge price swings in 2008 because of the mortgage bubble, crashed. People aren't traveling. Demand tanked. So low demand, plenty of supply. But why'd the price go up then to 147? There was no rationing. There was no gas lines. So why did it shoot up? Greed. And this is the same process. Silver and precious metals, when the dollar is going down, logic should tell you silver and gold are going up, just like Bitcoin should. But when the dollar goes down, they go down. And why is that? Because Wall Street, using paper contracts, futures, and stuff like that, can artificially inflate the prices of oil, artificially inflate or deflate prices of precious metals, of whatever they want. And that's why our economic system doesn't make sense. Like 2008, people aren't going on vacations. They're not driving as much. But oil goes to its highest ever? How? What's the demand? Who has the demand? And so another, people are estimating the actual scientists that actually care. It's a renewable resource, they believe. The earth is constantly replacing and replenishing, will never run out. And should we ever actually run out, the Fischer-Tropsch process, we would be able to create our own synthetic oil, just like Nazi Germany did, with much better technology. But they're not going to ever do. Those papers are long gone. What's coming, climate, blah, blah, blah. And gas, I think this is why they want to get rid of gas, because gas is like cash. You can go where you want. They can't track you on where you're buying gas, and just like with cash. But once we get us all in electronic cars that are attached to the cloud and the Wi-Fi, they can shut your car off in a second. An EMP, done. Whatever. But gas, you have freedoms, and that frightens them. So they're going to continue. So for anybody that wants to have like a quick overview of this, tell your friends and family about how the Nazi Germany, 75% of their oil was created synthetically, how Russian scientists believed it, Japan's oil was completed, and that none of this, we have continually find more and more oil each year. Production and reserves have gone up every year since 1980. And we're just there's huge deeper in the earth, in the Gulf of Mexico and all these other places. And it's just sitting there. So I think that's going to be, I'm not going to do part 2 of this. I think that you guys got the point. That's really what the other parts of the chapter go into, is like all these new oil fields that are being found, corruption, why they're doing this, why they're lying. And we all can infer why they're doing this, because they're done with the schmo, and climate is going to be the next endemic, pandemic, whatever, they're going to steal more liberties, transfer of wealth, blah, blah, blah. So don't believe them, guys. We They're liars. Don't trust them. But so tomorrow I'm going to be on the show with my one and only, or my one and only friend, my good friend, the Odd Man, and I might invite somebody else. Awesome chat, guys. Thank you, Truth and Doubt, Darren, Skeptic, Brian, Greg, Pressy, all you guys. Thank you so much for coming. This was an awesome chat. One of my favorite chats we've had in a while. But if you're bored and you want to stop by, Odd Man's been working on some really cool stuff. I'm also going to talk some Habsburg history, some Andrew Jackson history, some Napoleon history. So it'll be a fun show, and I might invite somebody else. We'll see if John Brisham's still mad at me for reading Jerome Corsi's book, Skeptic, and this is a joke. John knows I'm joking. But okay, guys, I'm Jack Allen. Go follow me at Kojak Podcast on Twitter, Instagram, blah, blah, blah. Thanks for listening, everybody, and I'll see you tomorrow at 8:30. Peace out, everybody.